The crypto market chaos continues today as prices have dipped to levels we haven't seen since last week. And people are acting like the sky is falling. No, today's show, we're going to talk about a whole lot of great stuff. Do we continue to go to the downside? Does the crypto crash continue? Or are we witnessing a bear trap at the moment? We will be joined during the show by Josh from Stocks with Josh. Some of you found our channel through him. I'm so excited for the first time to have him on the Investing Bros live show to break down from his perspective what he sees going on both in crypto and in the stock market and how the future of 2025 looks for the markets in general. If you're excited about the show, make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe. But first, we got to roll an intro. All right. Josh will be jumping on here very, very soon. Again, he's just wrapping up his live show. If you were over there, make sure to go subscribe to Stocks with Josh if you're not. Oop, I hear a jingle. That sounds like it's probably a Josh coming in here.
That's right. Yeah, let's I'll pull him in here. But how are you doing today, Tim? I'll get him set up, but tell us how you're doing.
I'm doing good. I mean, it was just on Josh's channel. My legs are feeling better after all that soreness from a workout earlier this week. Planning on going back to the CrossFit gym tomorrow morning, getting another workout in. Probably gonna, don't want to say that phrase on YouTube. Going to hurt myself again. But I'm going to love it. I'm going to love every second of it. Speaking of loving every second of it, as we get Josh in here, I'm loving today's crypto markets. I put a post over on X today that if you scroll through X, if you scroll through YouTube content, if you look at crypto content like articles on several different resources, the overall sentiment right now is extremely scared, extremely bearish. And it's days like this that often are the beginning signs of major bottoms coming and major rallies following. So right now, some of you might be a little upset. Some of you might be really concerned. And guess what we're going to talk about today's show? I've got to say, another thing we're going to talk about is what is the strategy that we are using right now to navigate these markets. Again, are we in a crash? Are we going to keep going lower? Are we going to lose $90,000? Or are we setting up a bear trap? No matter what ends up happening, the could go up, could go down scenario, everyone's favorite expression, you need to have a plan for either one of them. And today I'm going to tell you what my strategy is. I'm looking forward to hearing what Josh's strategy is and also understanding, again, what do the markets really look like moving forward in the year 2025. So do we get Josh up here? Is he...
Yeah, we do.
There we
How's
go.
it going, Josh?
Very, very good, guys. Excellent. Okay, very good. Thank you for having me on the show. Let's tell me what it is. So where are we at? What's the dialogue? What are we talking about right now?
Yeah, good stuff. Well, we're going to have a free-flowing show. And we do have some structure here, but ultimately getting your take for our community. Maybe, we have a good amount of people, as you know, who found us through your channel. But we got a handful of viewers who maybe have never seen you before, maybe never heard of your perspective. So I'm going to give some of my takes, but I'm going to ask you a lot of the same questions. I just kind of set the stage. I don't know if you heard that portion, but right now we're reacting to all this chaos, and we're asking the question, is this a market crash? Does the crash continue? Or is this a bear trap setting up? And if so, with that concept saying either one is technically possible, how do we set up a strategy to prepare for either one? I wanted to give mine. I want to get yours. And I think that's probably a great place to start. And then we'll get into some of the news stories. We'll talk about the FOMC minutes that just came out here roughly about an hour ago. We're going to be talking about bonds and treasury yields that have recently had some numbers giving some spooky details and kind of making some people believe the economy's not sitting in the place that we really want it to. And overall, we're just going to talk about stocks, crypto, what people should expect in 2025. But let's start off here on the Bitcoin chart, T-Shroom, and then we'll get into this. I'm going to give you my strategy, and I want to throw it over to Josh and hear what he's thinking as well. So what I'm kind of monitoring now, if you guys were watching the show yesterday, we told you my number was a little higher. T-Shroom gets to win the cake today because yesterday I told you guys a purchase between 94 and 95,000 would be a very good spot to be picking up some more Bitcoin. T-Shroom said 93. Well, guess what? Today we wicked down to 92,400. Even though it went below both of our levels, T-Shroom is closer. So T-Shroom, give yourself a pat on the back. Give yourself a round of applause. You did win that one today. But we're still witnessing an overall movement right now that stinks of manipulation, in my personal opinion. I really think if you start to go towards lower time frames, we're just witnessing bullish divergence after bullish divergence, massive overextended money flow that wants to go back up. We're seeing a lot of reversal dots come in. And so we're not there yet. We haven't yet hit the buy levels, the buy signals that I told you guys to wait for before entering any type of leverage trade position. But if you are a spot buyer, if you are a DCAer, you're loving what you're seeing with these low dips. You're loving what you're seeing with these lower time frames. You're just waiting to see, can we finally get everything to pop? Even here on the 4-hour chart, there's a little echo right there. The green reversals are coming in. The hyperwave or the oscillator is rounding over, and the money flow, while it's technically still negative, this money flow is starting to get itself into a little bit of a curvature. And the reason this is all very important is because what we are tracking right now is the longer time frames, like the daily and the 2-daily, they're still looking very good. Bullish divergences, positive hyperwaves, the daily chart, even though we had a small turnaround, still had a major buy signal the other day. We're just waiting for these lower time frames to start turning around and getting bullish. And it's only a matter of time before we continue back to the upside. But here's the thing. Here's what people need to be prepared for. There is a scenario right now I don't believe is necessarily likely, but I would be irresponsible not to prepare you guys for a larger pullback that is on the table. And what people are witnessing right now, I don't love this, but I'm not going to ignore it and say it's not there. This is a very messy looking head and shoulders pattern, but there are people out there saying there's the left shoulder developed back in November in 2024, late November. We then, of course, went a lot higher, put ourselves into a head position here later in December, mid-December. And this most recent move, a lower high from those highs back in December, could be the right shoulder of a head and shoulders pattern. If this is the case, we would have a neckline somewhere in this range around 91,500, taking the layout of the head down to that neckline. This would give us a possible price prediction all the way down here at 77 to 7. Well, earlier I had 73. Why am I? All right, let's go 77,000. $77,000, okay? Sub 80K. Again, I think there's strong support between where we are in these levels. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm betting on this to happen, but I'm aware of the possibility of a lower move to come. And when you really think about it, we've talked about this before as well. This is a more mature bull market. I don't believe Bitcoin has to have a 30% bull, 30% retracement like years past. But if we were going to compare Bitcoin 2 years past, around when altcoin season started, which I do believe has started in the last couple of weeks, we have witnessed Bitcoin historically fall roughly 30% to the downside. It happened back here in January of 2021. It also happened 4 years prior in February of 17. Nice little 30%. I think this was 34, 35% pullback right here. But you get the statement here. This time period in the 4-year cycle, it's not uncommon for Bitcoin to fall 30%. Well, if I move back over and I take a look at this potential breakdown on a head and shoulders pattern of roughly $77,000 to $73,000, this targets that people are looking at, this is only a 28, and then if it goes to 73, a 32% pullback. And so while I don't think it's actually going to happen, I'm very aware that falling back to a high, a resistance level that we never came back and reaffirmed, and having a 30% pullback historically has been in the cards at this time period in the cycle, I cannot give this situation a 0% probability. So how do I set up my trading strategy? How do I set up how I want to treat the markets at this time? Well, let's go back over here to the daily chart and kind of regroup and talk about what I'm going to do. I told you guys yesterday, I was buying at $94,000. If I have a little dry powder, I might explore buying some more down here at 91 as well. Back on this strong support, which again, we really haven't lost since back on November 26th. But after that, am I going to be selling? No, I am not. I am not going to be looking to take profit. I am willing for the long term to allow my Bitcoin spot positions to drop. I'm not entering long positions. I'm not entering long trading positions with leverage until I see the positivity and buy signals. But I am spot buying Bitcoin all the way down to 91,000. After that level is lost, if it starts to fall down, at that point, I am waiting until $77,000 to buy Bitcoin again. That is my strategy. It's simple. It's clean. I'm a big believer in the time in the market beats timing the market type of tactic when it comes to investing. I don't need to feel bad about being in a temporary loss for a couple of days or a couple of weeks should we travel down to 77,000. But I'm going to ride it through, and I'm not going to lose my head and freak out and capitulate or sell off just because we lose this $91,000 support level. With this being said, I want to make myself very, very clear. While I am prepared for lower levels, I myself still find a bullish take right here that I believe it is extremely likely that Bitcoin does not go back down below $90,000. That what we are witnessing at the moment is a bear trap that is going to cause many other retail investors to freak out, capitulate, to sell their Bitcoin, and then right as everyone's selling, the whales, the institutions, by the way, guess what? They've been buying this entire time. I don't know if we're going to bring these articles up, but I can show you really quickly. Zero Hedge, which we're going to actually talk about Zero Hedge here in a little bit. He has a great breakdown of the FOMC minutes. He brought this up 1 hour ago. This is a tweet from 1 hour ago. Larry Fink was indeed delighted to take all the Bitcoin you have to sell during yesterday's rout. BlackRock's IBIT bought $596 million of Bitcoin. BlackRock will also buy all you had to sell during today's shakeout. What is he talking about? He's talking about a bear trap type of situation. Yes, the news is freaking out. Yes, X and the average retail investor is freaking out, but the whales and the guys that are really wealthy, they're buying right now. And so I think it's extremely likely that the bottom is either in or extremely close. And as people sell in anticipation of a lower move, we actually end up flipping to the upside. With that being said, I'm aware and I'm open to the concept of being wrong. I'm open to the logic of a move all the way to 77,000. So I've gone ahead and mentally prepared myself. I don't care about living in loss for a short amount of time. I'm simply going to wait until 77,000 and start buying even more. That's not an historically bad move for Bitcoin. It's right on par with what we've done in cycles past. Don't lose your head. Make sure today, develop your strategy. Where are you buying? And hey, do you want to sell a little bit? Do you want to? While I'm not doing it, that doesn't mean you can't sell, but decide right now, what is your price that if we hit this level, I'm going to sell? And what is your price if it hits this level, I'm going to buy? If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. That's my strategy. I want to throw it over to Josh, though, and hear what you're kind of thinking, where your head's at with the Bitcoin market right now, with the overall market, and what strategy are you kind of utilizing in your buying and selling right now?
Hey, thank you. Okay, I want to take a step back and tell you what I'm certain about and what I am uncertain about. I cannot tell you that I know the direction that Bitcoin's going to go. I believe that Donald Trump, even though the Fed is accusing him of potentially triggering higher inflation, that's yet to be determined. But what I can say that Donald Trump is likely to do is to trigger interest back in crypto and Bitcoin by using his power to pump or promote or advocate Bitcoin in any way. People will rally behind it simply because he is going to have a ton of influence. Now, so I'm certain that as we get closer to January 20th, we're going to see him, commander and tweeter. We're going to see him saying things and doing things that absolutely cause crypto to rip. Now, the other thing I'm certain of, these are the two things I'm certain of. The other thing I'm certain of is that we haven't seen the volatility that this market's not expecting. I don't know why people are not expecting extreme volatility. Right when you got off, Tim, I mentioned the XRP historical chart and how it had broken up with an incredible move, only to retrace that entire move, only then to turn around and to basically go up back to that move and then another 100% from there. And so what we've seen in the past is extreme volatility. And this is the calmest Bitcoin environment we've ever been in. Of course, the answer to that is going to be, well, we've never had institutions involved. And that's very possibly true, that the institutional consistent buying that you mentioned a moment ago is giving us far more price stability. But I don't believe that Bitcoin will be able to be shielded from a sell-off in the broader market, because at the end of the day, it's a high-risk asset. It's a new asset class, really. And if this market wants to go south, one of the first places people are going to pull money is going to be these products, right? They're going to pull in the riskier end first. That's why we're seeing the yields go up. We're seeing people going, that's the whole dynamic because of the flight towards safety, right? And you can see that there's been a direct relationship between the yields going up and stocks going down. And when the yields begin to come down, stocks start going up. So we have a catalyst ahead of us, aka Commander and Tweeter, and we have more volatility to be expected in this market overall. As far as my bias at the moment is towards the upside because of the inauguration ahead of us. And, people think that we also are in discount zone. Going back to Lux for a moment, we're in discount on a lot of crypto. So I think the fear in the case of the alts and crypto, a good amount of it's been priced in right now. And so, and that's not, it's kind of similar to stocks. Yes, we could have another leg down, but I would say that the default is that this might be, if we're going to continue sideways, this might be a good place to go long because there's more benefit to the doubt that we've priced in fear, we've priced in negative news. And I think today was priced in. That's why I think we didn't see a bigger reaction to the FOMC meeting notes, even though I see a lot of trouble in those notes. I think it was already priced in. And that's why the market's not in absolute free fall right now.
Well, I think that's a good point right there. I think it's a good transition for us to go into some details there. I know you went into some on your channel, but let's get some for the bros community here as well, T-Shroom. What are you seeing? What are the big takeaways from the FOMC minutes? What's the bullish points? What's the bearish points? Are there any about, what does this mean for future markets? Because we did get a small bounce on the release of them. But from my limited research on them, again, I've been on live shows ever since they were released, they don't seem to be overwhelmingly positive. What is your take, T-Shroom?
Yeah, well, I'll just jump over to Zero Hedge's summary of it. Fed officials are worried about the inflation impacts from Trump's policies. This is from the minutes. So the Fed, and this is Zero Hedge's initial reaction with a bit of profanity that you'll notice there. Sorry, I apologize for that. But so the Fed is not reactive, even when inflation is biting them in the butt, but is proactively hostile towards the policy of a president it disagrees with, even if said policy doesn't even exist yet. Goes on to have some more headlines here. Many saw a need for careful approach in coming quarters. Majority said judgment about decision was finally balanced. So, meaning that there's far from a consensus on what should be done going forward with the rates. Should they cut? Should they pause? So that's actually somewhat encouraging. That last part's probably bullish. There could actually be a chance that we do see a cut in January. But regardless, they're kind of making it about politics, which isn't too surprising. I'll also bring this up as a reference. This is how the major mainstream financial media is running their headlines. CNBC says Fed officials are worried about the inflation impacts from Trump's policies. Minutes show Reuters, Fed officials at December meeting saw new inflation risks around Trump policies. Wall Street Journal, Fed minutes suggest officials will hold rates steady for now. Barron said Barron said something other than a summary here. Investing.com said Fed eyes slower rate cuts on worries about stalling inflation. Fed minutes there. So that's kind of a summary of how the news is running some swing on that, doing a little bit of a spin there, trying to make it about politics. My digest, because that was all information coming in from today, my digest of it is that they're going to cut. I mean, they're going to pause. I think that they're going to pause in January. We got a jumbo cut in September, a 50 basis point, followed by two 25 basis point cuts to round out 2024. The last time I checked, Polymarket was very firmly pricing in the spread had it at a pause, not a cut coming up. So that's kind of what I think is going to happen. Is that a politically charged move? Of course, Jerome Powell is going to get that question at the end of the month in January, and he's going to say it's not a politically charged move. We're just looking at the data. We're following the data. So we'll never really truly know. But regardless, I don't think that the market was pricing in that we would get a pause here. So that is we're gonna have to see what ends up happening with that. There could be potentially a reprice in risk assets. That reprice would be to the downside. But there's also the hope that the market has priced that in or will by the end of the month.
Well, let's look at CME real quickly, and then I'm going to throw it to Josh because his take here. This is the CME futures predictions for December of 2025. There's no clear consensus. You have some people saying we could potentially get even as much as, oh my gosh, that's a lot of cuts. They would go all the way to 275 to 3. But the highest level, 34.5%, is saying that we would only have one cut in the year 2025. 15.7% saying we will stay exactly where we are right now, meaning zero cuts altogether. But this does allow 35 plus 15. That only puts us at 50%. This does mean we're sitting at 50-50. 50% are saying only one cut or zero. 50% are saying more than one cut. It is going to be interesting to see how this develops. Now, before we go on, you can go off my screen here. I want to be fair because we talked about this on Josh's channel. Josh was very clear. He's like, I don't want to get political. We don't want to get too political here. I want you guys to know I don't like being political. I like making money. I like talking about things and explaining things to help you understand. Are you going to make money? Are you going to lose money? The line, though, between being able to do that and not get political, it's very, very small. It's very hard not to. But I also like to be fair because I feel like there's a lot of people out here right now, kind of like what we saw with Zero Hedge, that are sitting here saying like, oh yeah, how dare Jerome Powell imply that Trump's policies would cause inflation and make inflation go up. And why is he disregarding what Joe Biden did? I think the second half of that statement is very true. I don't care where you are on the political spectrum, printing billions and billions and billions of dollars to send to Ukraine and several other countries, whether you think it was the right move or not, you can't argue with that is a massive hurt to the American people, the American dollar. They had to print that money, which devalues it, which causes inflation to rise. But let's be fair. I want to make sure we're very clear here. Donald Trump's policies will cause a rise in inflation. Some of you might not like that I just said that, but I'm not gonna lie and try to be politically just on a right side and defend anything a right political person does. What Trump wants to do with tariffs, if it is allowed to go through, logically will increase inflation. What does that mean? Well, if we increase tariffs on other countries and we move to produce everything inside the United States, where labor is more expensive, where things will be a lot higher, guess what? The costs of food, the costs of goods, the costs of services will increase, and that is inflation. What it's not taking advantage of, though, is, first of all, well, how much can Trump's electric policies or his oil policies, how much can energy offset the price of things? And also, while inflation goes up, how much could hiring American people and only having goods and services made within the United States, how much could that increase the average wage of the individual? I mean, if inflation goes up by 1%, but wages go up by 10%, I think we're all okay with a 1% increase in inflation, or let's say 5%. We'd all be okay with 5% inflation if wages also increased by 10%. So I wanted to be fair here. The Fed is not wrong. Trump policies will increase inflation. But if we really get honest about it and get into the bolts and crannies, does it still end up being a huge net benefit for people of America and our economy in general? I want to throw it to you, Josh. You can continue with that thought. You can take it a different direction. Where is your head at right now with what we heard from the FOMC minutes, what we heard from Jerome Powell, his take on what the future of inflation looks like under Donald Trump? Where are you at with that?
Well, I'm going to keep it really simple because I have a lot of opinion on fundamentals. I occasionally comment on what the big story behind a stock or a company or the economy is. Those are all fundamental talks. I really am a chart guy, and I'd be misleading any of you to let you think that I was poring over news stories and reading earnings reports. I do look at the earnings reports, but I am largely following the price. I'm following the candles. I see candles 24/7, and the candles that I see, even after the FOMC talked today, or not talked, but we got the notes today, was sideways action. It was priced in, guys. It was priced in. Now it does appear that we're having a little bit of a rollover moment, but don't get too caught up with that, because what I see is a market that's moving sideways. And when is it going to stop moving sideways? And when is it going to go somewhere? I think earnings. Okay. I think that I've been talking about an AI revolt by Wall Street. And what that looks like is overspending on the part of the Magnificent Seven, minus Apple, who basically never even started spending. Of course, people will argue with me about that. They were very conservative. They were too busy trying to see if they could get Apple TV, Apple Car, and their headset going. I bought the headset. It's a paperweight. I just got Meta's glasses the other day, and like a lot of consumers who hadn't looked into it, you know which glasses I'm talking about? I thought I was going to put them on and I was going to like get text messages in my eyesight. No, it's just basically a fancy version of a camera and earphones. So you can hear, you can play music through your glasses, and then you can walk around and take pictures of people, or video at your house or something. But Apple didn't spend a ton of money, and I think Apple's stock's been going down, but I really wonder when big tech has to give an account to its shareholders of all the money spent on AI. And I'm pro AI, right? I'm pro NVIDIA. But when they've got to give an account through the fundamentals, and the fact that there's no ROI, return on investment, the shareholders want to see the profit margins increasing and revenue increasing. And if all they see is spending on AI, they're going to get upset. And when are they going to get upset? In 2025. And so why is the market moving sideways? Is it Trump? Is it the Fed? No, it's earnings. We need to see some earnings to see whether or not this market can justify going higher. And let's talk about this fact that, truth is that Bitcoin can peel away from the market, right? And the alts can go with it. But largely, it's been running in line with the NASDAQ for quite a while. Since 2021, I saw them sort of line up. Occasionally, they move away from each other, but the fact is they're largely aligned. If Wall Street begins to think that AI, and they turned its back recently on quantum computing. Quantum computing was, dump, buy, put money into it, and then all of a sudden, Wall Street turned its back on quantum computing. Is that an early signal that it's losing its risk tolerance for hype and technology, and that when we get into earnings, if they can't show some semblance of a tick up on revenues or profits through AI integration, and all they show is another Microsoft, for example, spending another $20 billion, if that's all they have to show for it, I think there's going to be an AI revolt. And so I think the reason why the markets are moving sideways, Bitcoin's moving sideways, is they're waiting to see. I actually think the underlying story, believe it or not, is AI. And I actually think the underlying player there is NVIDIA. And I think the market's response to NVIDIA's Q4 earnings told us its sentiment towards the big picture. Like when AI was screaming forward in 2020, when NVIDIA was rocketing higher in 2023 and 2024, it showed you a market that was all in on the AI story. And when it didn't respond that way and make a brand new high in Q4 earnings, I think that's when the narrative changed. Yes, it coincided with the Fed and other commentary. I'm not saying it's all one dimensional, but that's basically my big picture view. We get this next set of earnings. And, if they're decent and you see the market sell off hard, it tells you that decent isn't going to cut it in 2025.
Gotcha.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I want to get into some charts here, and we're going to get back into some other conversations. But I see some chat going on. People want to take a look at some charts. Quick question for you, Josh. We talk a little bit here and there, but what have you? I know Solana and XRP are cryptos that you're looking at, you're purchasing right now. Is there anything else in the crypto space that's really catching your eye right now that you're looking to add? It's coming close, or you have added recently? What would be your list there?
Well, interestingly, one of them is not performing terribly well, but I believe it can perform really well in the future, and it's one that I know you've covered as well. But it's my top four is going to be Solana, Sui. It's going to be Ondo, right? And it's actually recently been Ava. Those have been my recent top four. And Ondo, of course, taken a major
Major
hit.
crash, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's setting up for a potential next move up. But those are the ones that I like as far as looking down the road. And believe it or not, I would add XRP to that. But as I said at the tail end of my video, I'm not going to be XRP's bag holder. I'm not going to be Sui's bag holder. I'm not. That's not me. That's why I don't think I've done a single video where I haven't said use a stop loss. I am consistently. Yeah. I don't mean to say it in a way that sounds arrogant, but I don't know. I don't want to say I'm rich, right? I'm doing well.
You've made money.
And
yeah.
I've made some money. Okay. Okay. Now I've made some money, and I'm going to tell you that my biggest concern is keeping it. I want to keep it. And how do I keep it? One, in an unclear environment like the one I've been talking about here, uncertainty until earnings, position size is key. Second is don't hold anybody's token. Don't hold it for them. Don't be a bag holder for any of the companies I just mentioned. Now, as far as investing goes, you got to invest on the days, and I'm going to pull up stock up with Larry Jones, my good friend. We're friends before we were ever trading buddies, but we've been friends for 25 years. Trading buddies throughout the journey was added. And having said that, these you want to be in the fastest moving car, and you want to buy. You've got to be buying on the horrible, difficult days. Is today a horrible, difficult day? No. When it's absolutely horrific and the news is terrible and everything's down 30%. I talked with Larry the other day. He's got a pile of cash. Matter of fact, just for instance, he said, Josh, this is exact quote. This isn't a big sum of money, but you'll get my point. He said, I just pulled another 50K over into my Coinbase account. I said, oh yeah, what are you going to buy? Nothing. I'm waiting for the next bloodbath. Now, why am I talking about this? Because in my video on my page and in this video, I've talked a lot about how I'm actively swing trading. If that's not you right now, and it may be you in the future, but if that's not you today, then you've got to employ a different strategy. What is that strategy? That's to buy when Bitcoin gets under 90K and you start to DCA, right? That's not always going to work. At some point, we're going to get out of the crypto cycle. We're going to enter into the winter, right? But the truth be told, if you're a long-term investor and you don't intend to sell this anytime soon, I'm a believer that Bitcoin is going to be north of $250,000 at some point. And so even if you're buying and the winter is ahead of us, it can be part of a very successful winning strategy. So if you're not going to use a stop loss, then and I'm going to tell you, if you're not going to use one, I'm using one. And I'm going to take advantage of the stock of crypto when they go down or up. But if you're not going to do that, then the next thing you need to do is buy when volatility picks up and when everybody turns their back and runs from crypto, you need to be buying.
Absolutely. Love that. Love that. Let's take a look at the charts of some of the coins that you mentioned there. I saw some people asking in chat as well, but let's start off with Ondo. You mentioned Ondo there, and I saw someone in chat mention the unlock that's coming. And I think it's a good opportunity to kind of make sure we correct any rabbit trail thought processes about Ondo. You're absolutely right that in the year 2025, there is going to be a massive unlock of Ondo. It's not all coming out on the 18th, right? So the date that everyone's watching on Ondo is the 18th. January 18th, Ondo begins a massive unlocking where more than double the current supply will be released in the year 2025. It's not all happening on the 18th, right? We're not going to see an immediate crash. I do think it's one of the reasons why Ondo, when you look at almost every other coin in the top 50, very few coins have dropped below where prices were back in December, right? Most other coins are staying up above. Ondo dropped down. You can see a trailing level of support in play right now that came all the way down to 118. Does some of that have to do with the fact that there's an unlock about to happen? Absolutely. But does that unlock mean that Ondo's price should immediately fall more than 50%? That's where there's a little bit of misinformation out there. And to be fair, when it first was announced, I think we even contributed to it. So I apologize to anyone who watched some of our content from a couple months ago where we almost implied there would be a big drop in January. That being said, we are dropping. That unlock is a portion, but it's gonna take some time before it's really nasty. But going back to the chart here, let's talk about what Ondo is really looking at. Yesterday I told this to our members. So anyone who bought in here, you're in loss here a little bit, but there was very good reasons to buy in here around $1.33 or so. On the 4-hour chart, you began a sell signal. This was the beginning level of the take profit. We had order blocks in this space as well. We had high levels of liquidations that, we have some new ones that have popped up here more recently. But when on these shorter time frames, there was a heavy amount of liquidations right in this camp, right? As we are now looking at what has happened, it fell down into the 4-hour discount zone. It fell to a trailing level of support. It fell to the lower level of the take profit and has gotten a little bounce. And this is actually something I love seeing right here. It's not a confirmation the bottom of Ondo is in, right? That's not what I'm about to say, but it is a very bullish looking candle and a very bullish looking volume histogram. You guys see this white candle on the 4-hour chart right here. This in and of itself is called a hammer, a bullish hammer. I'm not the biggest fan of candle analysis, but if anyone is, this is a very bullish looking candle, and I don't want to discredit it. But the bigger deal to me is what the volume communicates right here. Notice the corresponding volume on the 4-hour chart is a massive green histogram. In fact, it's the largest volume histogram we have had since way back in December on the 20th during this major dip. And then Ondo would go to bounce back up to the upside. What am I saying? This large amount of volume communicates that after a massive amount of selling in the last couple of days on the 4-hour chart, we had a switcheroo. For the first time, heavy buying started to come in. Again, does that guarantee that's the bottom spot? It's not a guarantee. But with the overwhelming levels of support coming in this region, again, the discount zone, the falling level of support, the take profit zone, there's a lot of things piling up that Ondo is hitting at least a short-term reversal point right here. And let's go to the 1-hour chart and start to look at what's going on here. Again, same thing you're seeing on the 1-hour chart. What I'm going to be looking for, and sure enough, it is here. It's the Lux Algo buy signal. We have the green reversals. We have double bullish divergence. We have the green momentum dot, and we are working on, it's technically not here just yet, so let's give it some time here, but we are working on positive money flow, a buy signal that would send the hourly chart at least back up here to levels we bought yesterday, around 133. But then you start to look for, can we start to get this to trickle up? The 4-hour chart is very close. We have the green reversals. We have the rounding hyperwave or oscillator. We just need to see some of this flip bullish, and an hourly buy signal goes a very long way into flipping it that direction. So while we are not out of the woods just yet on Ondo, I don't want people feeling like this is the safe place and Tim is promising you we cannot go any lower. We've already dropped a whole lot more than the rest of the space. We're seeing lower time frames begin to show us the buyers are coming back. The reversals are starting to come in. What does the daily chart say here? The daily chart has just now skimmed a new take profit signal on the daily chart. The low end is saying going down towards $1 is technically on the table. And if Ondo does decide to match what Bitcoin's doing, my best guess is if we did see sub $80,000 Bitcoin, it would probably see close to, if not sub $1 Ondo as well. But what we are seeing that is a very positive sign right now. Like I said before, we are seeing lower time frames begin to flash bullish. We're sitting on some major levels of support, even as high up as the daily chart. But we need to start seeing confirmations before we enter any longer-term long positions. I think Josh's concept here of making sure you have stop losses in any trades is still very good. If you do end up entering some sort of trade because you want to be aggressive, make sure you have some conservative stop losses, diminish any losses you might acquire. But we are seeing some positive signs on Ondo. Absolutely. I love what I'm seeing there. I'm going to go a little faster with some of the other coins that he was looking at. I know Solana is one that him and I have been talking about. We've been texting.
Hey, Tim, can I chime in on Ondo before we get away from it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, can you? I'm sharing my screen. Can you pull that up or no?
Yeah, T-Shroom's got. There we go.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, T-Shroom. Appreciate you, by the way. All right, so Ondo, guys, let's talk about it. I just want to share with you what I see. We're going to make this a little bit of a charting school because I think people are trying to learn how to do this for themselves. This is we're looking at the 4-hour chart. We had some pretty clear signals of this breakdown, and we had a very clear sell signal. Back testing this structure, which had served as support for a long time. We broke out. We back tested it here. We had some popped back out, but ultimately came back in. So this served us as support for a long time. We back tested it right there. Okay, that was a bad sign. But most specifically, when we had come back into on the 4-hour time frame, we crossed below the MACD on the zero line of the MACD on the 4-hour window. We really confirmed this move. But I'm going to talk about how I make money. I just actually took an ONDO position as you were chatting, and I'm going to tell you why. It's very, very simple. One, I've known I wanted to get back into it. I've just been waiting for the right opportunity. But let's look at this percentage move down. So we have up here this percentage move. Okay, the last time we broke beneath the zero line on the MACD, which is right here. Okay. That was also the last time we broke here beneath the, let me see if this is the 9. I think this is the 9. That's the 50. So that's the 50, right? And the 50 is obviously bear territory. So when the percentage move between the 50 right there, okay, let me just mark it for you guys. The percentage move from there to there is roughly 20%. Now we've also had, and this is the way I trade crypto, okay? I'm using a lot of different patterns, but we've made a similar break here on the 50 right there. It was a similar cross on the 4-hour right there. And what percentage move do we have? Well, lo and behold, it's literally virtually the same. I mean, literally we have 21.14%. And so we have a somewhat expected move. Now, what is the chart telling me that it's going to do next? I think that this chart is going to back. First of all, we have a beautiful wick, okay? That's a huge buyer's wick. So probably a lot of investors thought the same thing I did. We've crossed beneath the 50. We got a 20% pull down. We've crossed beneath the 50. We got a 20% pull down. Now they bought up that bottom in the same way they bought up this bottom, guys. They bought up that bottom too. They bought up this bottom, right? And so it does appear as if it's poised to go higher. Now, what's the trend, and would this be considered a buy? Well, I'm going to take a small trade up. I went into small position size, but my goal is for a back test of the 50. When you ask me, am I taking this from $1.25 to $3? No, I'm taking this from $1.25 to about $1.42. That's going to be, for me, it's going to be a 15% retracement back, approximately a 15% retracement back to the 50 EMA, and look at that. It also happens to coincide with some structure, right? So I see that happening. Now, as far as this goes, the day this crossed down here, this is called bear zone. I can't make this any more clear, guys. I'm going to put a bear on it. We're doing emoji trading. This is the bear zone. And as long as we stay down here, we're in bear territory. And so even though I'm taking a scalp, a 15% scalp back up to the 50 EMA, this easily could not be the bottom. The last time we crossed over, let's look at the characteristics. We crossed over here. We spent from December 24th to January. I'm sorry, let me get it right. So yeah, December 24 to January 25. So we spent a good month going down, right? A very good month going down, and we didn't hit bottom. This is a sell zone, a sell signal, and ONDO could continue down for another month. I'm going to pick up this little trade. I did it while we were live. I'm going to pick up this trade, a potential 15% retracement. This 20% move was pretty strong. I think it was an overreaction. I think we go back to the 50. Now, if we get above the 50, that would probably be very similar to us getting above the 0, and we'd be back in bull territory, and it'd be a buy signal. So decision for long-term holders of ONDO is largely going to come around $1.40, okay? And I see us going back to $1.40 before we get that direction. That's what I see in ONDO at the moment.
I think that's very interesting. That's a good level to keep an eye on. Like I said, what I look for when I trade these things, when I'm going into my trades, I can get aggressive at times. I'm lighter on getting aggressive, way more on waiting for confirmation before I enter into trades. But I will not be surprised whatsoever, Josh, to see us get back up to 140. And then it becomes a decision point. Do we start to break through that 140? I think you're looking at some very convenient levels. I would say we start to ask the question, 162. 162 is going to be the level for me. Let's break the highs that we just set here on January 4th. I'm not zoomed in here, but let's break these highs back in here. Let's close candles above this 160 zone. That is then, I feel like, a confirmation for a longer-term trade up on ONDO. But scalping opportunities between here and there, you got to love it. He's right on. That's what we talked about. This buy candle, that buy wick that's in play on ONDO. Very, very good if you're looking at
Can I show you guys something?
Yeah.
Can I show you something? So I took that position that we talked about while you were speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, let's see here. There we go.
A little blurry, but
I don't think it's gonna focus, but
it's not gonna work.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So I'm up $665.
There you go.
In the 15 minutes that we've been talking. So that's so I'm just under $700, and I'm gonna say, okay. So while you guys are sitting here watching me, I made $700. If you learn the charts and you have discipline, you can get to the place where you have control over money. I say by God's grace. All the talent comes from him. Everything I know, comes from him. But I'm demonstrating that for you guys in front of you, that it's worth taking the time to learn the charts. But it's not worth taking the risk until you learn the disciplines. I've spent a lot of years. It's the disciplines that make me money. It's not the charting. The charting is the foundation for my decisions. The disciplines is what makes me money. I'm making it right in front of you guys. It's now 767.45. So I think it'll, next time I do a show with you, I'll give you guys an update on how that trade is. But right now I'm going to put a stop loss in. So I'm up $758. Entering my stop loss. I'll put it at break even. Can't lose any money.
There we go.
Can't lose any money.
There we go.
That's
awesome. Let's go look at a couple other coins here that Josh mentioned. Take a look at what's happening. Solana, different look, right? So it's not identical, but very similar things going on here with Solana. In fact, you probably could just close your eyes and point at a chart. We're probably going to see most charts have a similar candle dynamic. Now, this one's still a bearish candle here on the 4-hour chart. Even if I go down to the 1-hour chart, the bottom candle coming in, it's a blue candle. Right on my chart, that means bearish. But what I'm loving seeing on this hourly chart, on the 4-hourly chart, look at the histogram coming in. That's way bigger than the actual size of the candle. Once again, what does that communicate? Well, we've had increased volume as of late during this major correction. But for the first time, the volume is coming in as buyer volume. And it's communicated a little bit better here on the 1-hour chart. But we actually have buyers coming in. We're starting a very slow ascension to the upside. But on that small time frame, here we go. We're looking at Luxalgo. We're looking at the buy signal. Someone asked earlier in chat, what is the probability? What is the likelihood of these hitting and being profitable trades? In my experience, using this Luxalgo oscillator, if you follow the rules that I'm telling you, I have over a 90% win rate. Yeah, occasionally things go wrong. It doesn't play out. But 90% sitting there pretty good. What do we have on the equation here? We have, there we go. T-shirt I'm showing us there. Green reversals, bullish momentum, and it took a little bit. But look at this money flow. Look at this fat stack of redness right in here. What this communicates, this is the money flow. The dark red is just, hey, money was flowing out. It was flowing out. It was flowing out. It started moving sideways. And then here, within the last couple of hours, we have money flow going positive. Money's starting to flow back in. But the more bullish part of this indicator is this bright pink zone. This bright pink zone is an overflow or an overselling pressure, meaning as the price was falling, we had excessive amount of people coming in, putting pressure on the price to go to the downside. But when those excessive sellers leave, you often can see both the oscillator and the price action have a nice spring to the upside. So it's like we have a super powered buy signal on the 1-hour chart. The bare minimum, again, if you're asking me, Tim, with this strategy, what is the 90% win rate here? Well, the 90% win rate is 90% of the time when you get a buy signal on that time frame, in this case is the 1-hour chart, you can trade this back up to the red smart trail. If you have one above you, 90% of the time it will repeat these levels. What are we looking at right now? We're looking at just above $200 on the short term for the 1-hour chart. On the 4-hour chart, which again, we still have a nice looking buy wick right there. We're close to a buy signal here where we've been getting repetitive reversal indicators. We have a green dot. The money flow has not turned positive yet, but you can see, just like the hourly chart, these excessive sellers They're rounding off. It looks like they're getting ready to leave. If that bubble pops, forget just $200. All of a sudden, we're looking up here at the 4-hour smart trail up at 207 to possibly as high as 212. Again, we're talking about scalp moves here. But in the grand scheme of things, again, this was another chart that I've been looking at for weeks, that the daily chart flashed bullish weeks ago. Weeks ago, we got a first bullish flash on the daily chart for Solana since way back over here, September 9th, right? We're not getting a lot of buy signals on the daily chart for Solana. So when you get them, you want to make sure you take advantage of them because they're rare. We got that a couple weeks ago. What we've done here is we've fallen back, even though there's not been any sell signal, we fell back to the daily smart trail into the support level around 189. That is an argument right there that potentially that's as far back as Solana really wants to push and before we make a bigger move to the upside. Again, no guarantees, but historically, this is a very bullish part of the 4-year cycle, and historically, this signal on Solana, these don't come often, and when they do come in, you have a sustained longer-term buying pressure during the bull market. Josh, anything you're seeing on Solana? Is there a level you're buying? Is there a level you're watching for? What are you seeing on the Solana chart?
Let me jump over to the Solana chart.
Love having you on, by the way. This is a lot of fun.
You.
People in the chat are really, really loving it. So
yeah, so let's I don't know, let me see if you guys can show my Solana chart. And I'm just going to do a little bit of MACD analysis. Can you everybody? Okay, very good, guys.
I think that's still ONDO. But I'm still seeing ONDO on my side.
Okay, give me a minute. I got to stop sharing it here, and then I got to share Solana. Okay, thank you, guys. All right, we got Solana.
Yep, good to go.
All right, let's. I do want to briefly talk about Bitcoin too when we get a chance. Let's go to. I don't want to know whether we want to do 4-hour. Whew, look at that! Look at that. So yeah. You know, I mean, I Solana kicked my butt. I think I texted you when I bought a big Solana position, and I had a very loose stop loss because I kind of was at the point where I'd made a ton of money, and I wanted to widen my stop losses and go long, right? And I think it was right around here. And so I was like, you know what? I know it's going to hurt. I was up, I was up $89,000 on my Solana position, probably when it was here. And then it came all the way down to roughly zero. And I had a really low stop loss back here. And I think I even bought in. And this thing, when it broke here, is when it broke me. I took between here to here, between money gained and money lost, between this and a handful of other positions, I gave back just under $200,000, which sounds really bad, but I've had a number of great days where in a single day I've made 100K. So don't cry for me. But the last pull down was rough. It was a rough pull down. I go through all that to say that it's not over yet. If we go into the 4-hour chart, you know, the fact that we're in bear territory again is significant. We're not out of the woods. Now, so let's talk about moving averages and a classic buy signal. Let's change this 50 to a 200, and I'm going to give you guys a classic buy signal so you know when to go long. So there's the 200, and we're beneath it, right? And so that's really problematic. So we're beneath the 200 on the 4-hour chart. And a classic buy signal is when you get a cross up under the zero. This is the zero, okay? And you get a cross up on the MACD at this level. If this price were above the 200, it would be a basically not a long-term buy signal, but it'd be a longer buy signal. This chart, I love Solana. Don't get me wrong. I'm not bearish on it. I have long-term Solana. I have my trade account and I got my long-term accounts. I'm not selling any of my long-term right now. I agree with what you said a moment ago. This huge wick showed buyers thought that this was an overreaction. It wouldn't shock me if we do get a back test here to some critical levels. I probably would say, I don't know. It's hard to say. This looks like a critical level right here. So here's my point.
It's hard to see on my end. What's that price right there you just drew across?
Right around $200. So it's probably the psychological level. Remember, let me just mark it. So this is the psychological. It's not. It's more than a psychological level, but let's just mark it. So right here you have, previous support,
Mm-hmm.
breakdown, resistance, resistance, breakthrough,
Mm-hmm.
breakdown. And so, but here's the main point I want to tell you. This is it might get a little dead cat bounce, but we're totally in bear territory. That's the main point I can walk away with. Until these moving averages get out of above here on the MACD, and until we get above here on the 200, the bears are 100% in charge. Now, if you want to be an early, guess the bottom guy, then you get in right now.
Right.
If you do it with discipline and you have a stop loss, go ahead and do it. I do it. I just did it on ONDO, right? I just did it on ONDO. If you want to be a guess the bottom guy, put a stop loss in, and that way you have a controlled position. If it goes beneath that, you're out again. Maybe you gave back a little bit of money. Maybe you got break even like me. But this is a bearish chart. This is a bearish chart. Now, if we change the time frame from 4 hours to 1 day, let's see here. The story does interestingly actually change. So it means that in the short term, it's a little bit bearish. But let's clean it up real quick, and I'll show you some thoughts there. Let's see. Just give me 1 second, guys. Be patient.
I've never seen anybody remove the drawings like that. That's a hack right there.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
I probably could have put them all in I could probably draw in a folder and then just turn them off. But okay, real quick. All right, let's clean it up. All right, we're all clean again. Okay, so yeah, I mean, this is also pretty ugly. We came up to the 0 line and we got rejected. Now, but I'll tell you something through personal experience. It's very normal that the first time the MACD's had a move like this, where it's broken down, it's very normal for it to initially get rejected and for it to then break through. And that's not it's not a rule, it's an observation. You can see that you can see it happen right back here. So we came up, we came right to the 0 line, got rejected, but the next time we got a crossover and it came back up, it went through. And then this was a buy signal, and let's just look at it. Let's see if MACD trading works. I already know that it does because I do it all the time. You would have bought in right around here. And you would have still had some risk to the downside, but you basically would have picked up that entire move. On the daily chart, it was, this was the buy signal right here. This was the fake out moment where it almost crossed beneath the 0, but it didn't, and it just continued to pump. So this was the back test of the 200, and then it was Pump City. And similarly, this here is sort of this back test of the, this is sort of this bearish scenario. But ultimately, in a longer time frame, Solana is looking decent to me. In the short time frame, I actually see a little potential to the upside, but we're in bear territory. But I want to see this play out. And the best place to buy this would be right here, wherever that ends up being. So I think that we end up going short again here briefly, and then we end up making a bigger move. Where does that put us? It puts us, this says January 25th. That's very approximate. But what if the Trump rally kicks off crypto and it's sell this environment but buy the news? Something we haven't said very much. If we're not getting the second wave of the Trump rally before the Trump rally, maybe it comes after. If my guesstimations on Solana play out to be true, it looks like around January 20th or so, this could be curling back up for a longer term move higher. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah.
I like it.
And somehow I love even watching you kind of break that stuff down. A lot of people, when they get into the world of investing and trading, they look at a chart. Go share my screen here really quickly, Tisha. I'm just going to use this for visualization. The dream you have is like, man, if I just buy right here and I buy right here and I sell right here and I sell right here, if I could trade in hindsight, I'd be perfect. That's not the game. That's not the strategy with trading. It's very hard to always pinpoint every bottom and every top. And I'll ask you this question, Josh. I'm sure I know the answer. Do you win every single trade you ever enter?
No, but I will say this, that this is where I'm at in my investing. My investing has a lot to do with position size.
Mm-hmm.
Since I've been public on YouTube, I kind of previous to YouTube had a rhythm and a cadence to investing, and I had a certain degree of risk that I had become accustomed to. And after I've been here on YouTube for a couple of years, and I'm sharing more of my trades, I'm beginning to sort of push myself. I'm like, okay, well, what could I do if I took more risk? I
Mm-hmm.
probably have been too conservative. But so I am increasing my position size that I take in my general trading, and I've been seeing bigger gains, gains like I've never seen before. Having said that, I book a ton of losses, but I'll tell you this: virtually everyone is stop loss oriented. And
Yes.
and to be honest with you, that's protected me a ton of money. Now I'm not going to call them out, but I have somebody that I'm helping trade, someone close to me, and I gave them some direction on some trades. They didn't put a stop loss in, and they got
Mm-hmm.
cooked. They
Mm-hmm.
got just totally roasted. Now, the first time I gave them some investment picks, I said, okay, you've entered your position. Let's figure out your stop loss. It was fascinating because, they had a different position, they had a different portfolio size than me, but it turned out that they were largely willing to take like a $500 loss on one position. And they're like, oh, I like this crypto. So I'll take I'll take up a $2,000 loss on this one because I like it more. I'm
Mm-hmm.
willing to give it more time. And we had like a 20-minute conversation about stop losses. We got them all dialed in, and they made from those plays, they made about 15, 20K in the next 30 days. Then they came back to me. They're like, I said, go cash. They went cash. I went cash. And they came back to me for a new round of plays. I gave them some of the ones we talked about. Ondo was one of them. And I didn't talk through stop losses because I felt the previous
No.
conversation was so good and
Mm.
it was so thorough, and I told them they needed stop losses.
Yeah.
And so then they texted me the other day and like, dude, man, I got destroyed on that Ondo. And I'm like, I'm assuming you didn't have a stop loss.
Yeah.
And they didn't. So yes, I book losses every day. I will lose money every single day, but I make more money than I lose. I've made more money than I've even come close to losing today. I've not even been trading. I've been on lives all day, and I think I'm around 4 or 5K in crypto. Most of that was in XRP,
Mm-hmm.
and it's about 5 trades, and I have not lost. I've taken 2 stop loss hits. One was 200, one was 500, but I'm still up, and I'm not even paying attention to it. If you don't have, if you should not be doing anything like me if you really aren't a stop loss user. If you're a stop loss user and you come learn the charts from people like me and the team here on Investing Bros, that gives you the first step towards being profitable. The second step is really gauging your risk through position size and using your stop losses. So yes, Tim, I lose money
Mm-hmm.
every day, but I'm making more money than I'm losing every day.
Exactly, and that's the point I was getting at. Is that like I'm not gonna try to say I know how many trades he wins and how many loses. Let's pretend though that you're a 50-50 trader, right? I would say you want to get closer towards probably 70% is the goal, but let's just pretend you're a
50,
50-50
you
trader.
know what? It's funny. I don't mean to cut you off. I just want you to know my goal is 50-50.
Okay,
My goal is to be a
there we go.
50-50 trader, but to have a 20% stop loss and a 60% win. So just so
Yes,
you know, I
yes.
actually do run closer to 50-50, but
Mm-hmm.
the goal is to always have a potentially bigger win. Hold my winners.
And that was the point I was exactly making. Is if every single trade you're gaining $5,000, but on a positive trade, but every loss you're only losing 2,000. Guess what? I entered 10 trades a day. I lost 5 trades. I lost $10,000, but I also gained. What is that? I said 5,000 per, so I gained $50,000. So if I lose 10, gain 50. Guess what? That's a net positive, gain 40. There are so many rules to trading and so many ways to do it effectively. And I love what Josh is communicating on here. A lot of stuff that we talk about with our private memberships over in the Bros Academy, but he's out here giving you guys gold for free. Go check out his channel, check out ours as well. But we talk about this all of the time. The making of a good trader is not the perfect technical analyst. Do I want to teach you technical analysis? Does Josh want to teach you technical analysis? Yes. Locating support and resistance levels is a very important part of trading. But more important is understanding proper risk management, understanding where to put your stop losses, understanding how much reward is enough to counteract any losses you can have, and then not giving up, not getting in the mental state of saying, hey, I lost that trade. That doesn't mean you're a terrible trader. The best of the best lose trades on a regular basis. The question, though, is have you created a good strategy to become, in Josh's case, 50-50? I like to push myself, try to get more like 70%. But no matter what your goal is, are you gaining more money than you're losing? That's the actual tactic of a real trader. And you accomplish that by making sure you set up proper, healthy risk management stop losses. Could not have said it any better, Josh, if I tried to. That being said, it's 4:05. We ran a little bit long here today. Thank you to everybody who's here. We are so I knew we were going to get close here. We are literally about, let's see, let me refresh my page. 39,937 subscribers. We are 63 subscribers short of 40,000. Smash that subscribe button right now if you guys have enjoyed this show. You want to know, and here's what as we're wrapping up today, I just want to, thank Josh community. One of the biggest reasons we're even approaching 40,000 is because of the community over there at Stocks with Josh. A lot of you guys in chat right now either found us today through Stocks with Josh, you found us months ago from Stocks with Josh, or there's some of you who maybe have never heard of him. I cannot recommend another channel on YouTube to recommend more than going and following him right now. A little less crypto than the bros, but a whole lot of macroeconomics, a whole lot of solid trading talk in the stock market. He dabbles in crypto as well. He's a very good, very close friend. I can't tell you how many phone conversations Josh and I have had, not even about crypto, not even about investing, just about being men, being businessmen, helping lead other people and setting ourselves up and the people around us for success. This show would not be what it was without people like Josh here. So I wanted you to know that, Josh. I appreciate you very, very much so. Loved having you. This is your first time on our channel, but it's not going to be the last whatsoever. I can't wait to have you on again.
I loved this time. Thank you for your words. And I'm so thrilled to see you get to that milestone. I wish I had known that the exact difference in number because I would have pumped you harder when you did my live. But tonight I'm going to go on the Stock Squad. I'm going to give you guys a shout out. And if you're not above the 40, I'm going to tell people to run over there and get you above that 40. That's such a thrilling moment, and it just shows you guys how many people you've touched and helped, and I'm thrilled to be part of it in any way. And you've taught me, Tim, and I've really enjoyed. I met T-Shroom at the Bitcoin conference, and he's an upstanding guy, and I've learned things from you. You're my #1 teacher for Lux Algo, and if I still have questions, I go to Tim and I say, "Hey, what does this mean?" And so thank you for helping me helping me make money. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up today's show. Thank you to Josh for being here. Thank you, T-Shroom. By the way, you guys are missing Smay. No Smay today. He got a little sick. I don't think he's like deadly sick, but I think he's just going through it. So Smay got the day off. Smay, if you're watching, rest up. Feel better, my friend. Can't wait to have you back on very soon. The rest of you, if you enjoyed today's show, make sure to smash that like, hit subscribe, go follow Josh on both his YouTube and his X account. We're gonna make sure both those links are in the description down below. If you're not subscribed to the bros, subscribe right now. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Love you guys. Adios.